Welcome to Wisdom Wednesday number 85. Ego, superego, and inner child. Question: what is the ego? What is so bad about the ego? What is the superego? How does the superego operate? What is the inner child? How do these three relate? Okay, let's start with the ego. The ego is due to our initial separation from the infinite self that you are into a divided state, which is the I, and then I'm separate. So the ego is the one that says I am separate. And usually the ego comes in the form of an image of how you should be or how you should act in this limited relative world in order to survive it. And this ego image generally comes from your childhood in your initial years. Like an incident happened and you had to decide how to survive that, and you didn't survive it very well. So then you made a decision about how to survive, and that if you are a certain way, it seems like you'll be able to survive in this world. So a simple example of an ego image would be something like saying, I should be a nice person. And incidences happened where it's proven to you that if you are a nice person in all kinds of different ways, then you survive. You'll get friends. You'll get love. Your parents will take care of you. This is your child's interpretation of how to survive, and so it just took on some kind of a belief that seemed to work. So it's a concept, a belief, an idea, an image, something like that. The superego is what I call the ego's hitman. So he's the guy that is like absolutely loyal to the ego and will go out and hunt you down if you don't live up to that image, because now you've made an agreement with the ego somewhere way down back in the childhood that the ego will take care of you. Now, so the hitman is, or the superego, or the inner critic. There's many names for this character, but he's the one that sits on your shoulder and yaps at you when you're out of alignment with your ego image. So the superego, in my understanding, is not someone you want to feed. And as a matter of fact, when you see the superego come and shoot you down, like criticize you, make you feel bad, make you feel guilty, confuse you, basically the superego is sort of like a parent-like figure or an authority figure that's making you feel bad and small for either being out of alignment with your image or that you're too much of something. You're too loud, you're too energetic, you're something. So it's just constantly making you feel bad. So what we do in the yoga world is we identify what the this inner critic is, or the superego attack is, and we say, no thank you. I know you're on the side of the ego, and I know that you want me to survive, but the way your idea of survival is not working for me anymore. So we have to be really, really alert to these attacks. And they come in the form of anxieties and just depressions even, because you got this voice constantly making you feel bad because you're not doing the right thing, and you're never doing the right thing according to the superego. You're never doing it right. You could be doing everything right, but the superego will not allow you to feel that way because you're not living up to the ego image. And the fact is, you as a whole pure being is not limited to the ego. The ego doesn't know everything about your survival. So you made an agreement with the ego to let it help you survive. But as years go on, you're going to start to realize how um, you're going to be disillusioned, how the ego is actually not really on your side all the time. So it's not bad. I won't say it's bad, it's just doing its job. But you have to be bigger than the ego. You can't let ego run the show, because he will make a mess of your life. You have to run your show. So you have to be big enough to know when the ego is not helping you anymore. And you have to be the one that will choose, well, maybe I'll take on this role or this attitude or this belief in order for it to work out this situation. But you don't have to be the victim of the ego. Now, the other question you asked was, what is the inner child? Well, I feel that the inner child is like the heart, the soul of you, the part that is the divine's messenger or something like that. So we have to learn how to protect the inner child's boundaries. And every time we cross the inner child's boundaries, which are, we have to protect we have to honor and respect the voice of the inner child. And in our youth, and even in our teenage years, or even now, even in our adult years, we may be crossing our own boundaries. We cross the inner child's boundaries, and we allow others to cross our boundaries. The inner child freaks out and is the one that gets hurt. So the inner child is sensitive to when we cross boundaries. The idea is that when we listen to the inner child, we're listening to the divine's voice in the form of our inner child. And we, the one who's free here, the one who can make choices, have to listen to the inner child, not the superego. The ego is just the image that that the superego wants you to live up to. So the superego will make you feel small and attack you. The inner child is the one that feels hurt and is sensitive. But its sensitivity is the one we need to abide by, listen to, because it has a lot of wisdom in there. The superego doesn't have wisdom. It just has, I know what you should do, and you should do it this way, and what you're doing is wrong. So that voice is not the one you want to listen to. You really want to honor, protect, and encourage the inner child and listen to the inner child. The inner child is the one who knows what's really right. And if you listen to it, or her or him, the one inside of you, then you're going to start feeling better and better every day. So the less you listen to the superego and the more you listen to the inner child, which is the reverse of what we normally do. Normally we listen to the superego and feel really, really bad and try to get back on track with the ego's image. And we keep suppressing and denying and pushing down the inner child's voice. So we have to go through this transition where we recognize that the inner child is more important than the superego and the ego. And there's a lot of work we can do on that. And if you want to know more about that, you just check in with me, because I do a lot of work around the ego, the superego, the inner child, using boundaries, understanding, and through the process of meditation and deeper processing work, we can clear the superego voice and its attacks, and we can feed the voice of the inner child. So that's it for today's Wisdom Wednesday. I'll see you next Wednesday. Bye.